Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell, back with the interviews. UEFA's World Cup playoff leg needed a spark. Where Italy and Croatia were expected to provide that spark, both sides failed to deliver. Thankfully, Christian Eriksen came to the rescue. Eriksen's hat-trick against Ireland last night secured Denmark's World Cup berth for the first time since 2010. Christian Eriksen, not the most renowned player, but he provided a world-class performance when his country needed it. On this edition of the interviews, we're going to discuss why Christian Eriksen is one of world football's most underrated players. If you've never heard the name of Christian Eriksen before this video, you know who he is now. You've probably heard about him on the news. He was one of the key figures as to why Denmark are in this summer's World Cup. Let's quickly break down how that happened. Here we have Ireland in the blue, Denmark in the red. We could really break down this game, but we'll just get into Eriksen and why he was so important. After Ireland took the lead, they kind of dropped off into two banks of four, which is expected. But what makes Eriksen so great is that he's a space invader. He finds spaces in different areas, and if he can't find it in one area, he'll drift off to another area to get on the ball. He demands the ball. You could see during the game when he wasn't on the ball, he'd be motioning to his players to give him the ball. He'll give it back to you. He moves into space. It's so key in today's game, and it doesn't matter if he's pressed. He's not worried about it. It doesn't faze him. He still gets on with his game. He passes the ball and he moves. Eriksen likes to operate in these spaces right here, but in the early stages of the game when Ireland were more compact, he dropped off here. He dropped off deeper, moved to the right, moved to the left, moved centrally. What also helped was that his teammate on the left, Sisto, was also given the license to roam. So he would roam there and that would pull defenders to him so that Eriksen could get on the ball. We saw this for the second goal where they combined and Sisto found Eriksen and he finished his effort right into the low bottom corner. But Eriksen was operating in these positions, just retaining possession, passing the ball off, moving, and that was key. But as Ireland had to chase the game after going down 2-1 when Eriksen scored the go-ahead goal off the counterattack, that changed everything. Basically what happened was that spaces started to increase, they start to press out, and Eriksen started getting the ball here, and that's when things really happened. That's how he scored the second goal. After the second goal, his second goal, and that's how everything opened up. Then Eriksen started getting chances on the break, on the counterattack, something similar to his goal against Real Madrid where he was running beyond half and getting on the end of a chance. And then that also was how he scored his first goal, where he made a run from this deep as Denmark started the counterattack, and he ended up finishing the goal at the edge of the box. Christian Eriksen has made his name. A lot of players don't score a lot of goals. It's actually one of the hardest things to do in the sport, but to score a hat-trick in a game of this much importance shows how great he is. We lauded Lionel Messi for doing it when Argentina made it to this summer's World Cup. We lauded Cristiano Ronaldo for doing it in 2014. Christian Eriksen deserves the same amount of credit here. And that's one of the few times where we give Christian Eriksen his credit. Now you have to ask yourself, why doesn't Christian Eriksen get the credit he deserves? When you think of Spurs, you think of Harry Kane, you think of Dele Alli. Coincidentally, they're both English. They play in the Premier League, so it's kind of understandable why they get that credit. But Eriksen doesn't really symbolize anything that Spurs do either stylistically, and he's not the main man. He's not a main presser or a dribbler like the philosophy that Pochettino has derived at Spurs, and he's not the main goal scorer like Harry Kane is. What Eriksen offers is something different. He offers the creativity, the ball retention, to be able to pick a pass, to be able to unlock tight defenses. When you think of Spurs, you think of their energetic pressing, you think of the dribbling, you think of Ali's late runs, you think of the fullbacks bombing forward. But when you assess the team, when you go through each position, Spurs don't have a creative player, a player that could unlock a defense, a player that's a set piece specialist, a player that could score goals as well as create them. And that's what this whole playoff was kind of missing when we look at the game between Italy and Sweden, we look at Croatia and Greece. We were missing that type of player that could elevate his game, that could take the game by the scruff of the neck and win it on his own. That's what Eriksen did last night. That's what the great players in this sport do. That's what elevates you from a top player to a world-class player, where you can create chances, but you can also win games on your own. Look at Ronaldo, look at Messi, how they do it. Eriksen isn't at a world-class level yet, but he's approaching there. He's at his prime. He's been in the Premier League for 4 seasons. When he joined Spurs in 2013, we all thought that he would be this simply number 10 creative player, plays between the lines, creates chances. But after AVB's tenure, after Tim Sherwood, Pochettino's kind of, like, he's elevated his squad, elevated Eriksen's game as well. And Eriksen now is not solely a number 10. He's a hard-working player that could play the number 10 role. He could play in the wings, and he could cut into these spaces. And as we've seen recently, he could play in midfield as a third midfielder. He plays out wide. And if we really break this down for you, what happens in a 3-man midfield is that, I'll actually put these guys here too. What happens in a 3-man midfield is that when they have to press, they have to do their defensive work as well. So if they're not staying compact and keeping their lines and making sure that the opposition doesn't break those lines, they're pressing the fullbacks. They're putting pressure on them. They're ensuring that they don't go forward. We see Eriksen do that a lot. We saw him pressing last night as well. His work rate has improved. His fitness has improved. He's very versatile. He could play on the counterattack. That's why he plays in that role where he could launch counterattacks and play in transition, but he can also retain possession and dictate games now. And that's what's seen him develop his all-around game. So in 2013, he was simply a number 10. Now he could play out wide. He could play midfield. He could play that number 10 role like he did last night to full effect. And now he's scoring goals, and that's key. Once you develop that aspect of your game and you become a prolific finisher, that's what takes you to that next level. That's what Eriksen's doing right now, and that's where we could say that he's one of the top players in the Premier League. We could say that he's arguably the top 1 or 2 playmakers in the league with David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. What we have noticed in the last few years, specifically in the Premier League as well, or the entire football game, is that pressing has become key. It's become the key component. It's no longer a possession-based game. Yes, the superior teams will dominate possession, but now it's more transitional, pressing, energetic, dynamic type of football that we're seeing. And as a playmaker, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to adapt. That's why Kevin De Bruyne is one of the top players in the Premier League. We can even look to a team like Real Madrid where Isco is a very flashy number 10, but he works hard. He has a good work rate. He could defend. He could protect his fullbacks. And with Eriksen, we're seeing that. With Kevin De Bruyne, we're seeing that. And when we look at it, that's where Mesut Ozil has kind of fallen off the tracks at Arsenal, where, yes, in terms of talent, he's a great passer, he can create chances, and he's probably the best counter-attacking playmaker in the world. But when you look at his all-round game, it's not as defined as Kevin De Bruyne. It's not as defined as Christian Eriksen. And when you toss in goals into his game, that's where Christian Eriksen even trumps Ozil and goes even higher, where you can make the case. Now you could argue that Christian Eriksen is, at this moment and over the past few months, is a better player. Yes, we're gonna say a better player than Mesut Ozil, because of how defined his game and how versatile it is. And that's credit to Pochettino, that's credit to Eriksen for taking that challenge and adapting his game. And Denmark's seeing the rewards. They're going to be in the World Cup, and Eriksen's going to be a high-profile player, and that's credit to Spurs now, because they're trying to fight for the title. They're in the hunt. They're trying to make a big Champions League push, and you can kind of feel that with every passing week, Eriksen's name and his stock is going to rise and rise and rise, and soon we may see big clubs coming for Eriksen. But let me know what you guys think. Christian Eriksen is reaching that level. Is he at a world-class level yet? I don't think he is. Do you think he is? Is he getting there? Is he close? How far off is he? Meet me in the comments below and let me know what you think. I upload videos every week, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.